And what we really need now is to address the second aim, that it's to create synergies and to put you all together working and collaboratively find the solutions that we need for a sustainable use of our ocean. So this is these are the two aims of the pledging platform. And we have launched the pledging platform, the All-Atlantic pledging platform, in scope of the All-Atlantic2021 Conference. It was, if my memory is not mistaken, on the 20th of May that we have opened the platform, and it is really excellent that we already have more than 30 pledges, as they said. And this is an ongoing effort. So the pledge, the platform has been launched. It is an ongoing effort. This is the first cohort. More cohorts will occur in the future, and we will keep having these synergies workshop. Maybe you can then maybe speak a bit what is the S and the pledge, because it's really important to keep going this initiative. So before, let me just summarize how the pledge is structured. So the pledge, what we are looking for, it's a solution. So the pledge is a mean to find an end, and the ends are the solutions that are being found by the different projects and initiatives that we have in the Atlantic Ocean. So these are voluntary pledges, and they can be, through time, they can be updated. The pledge platform is structured in 6 thematic areas that are the 6 thematic areas that were prioritized within the goal statement and the blind statement. So in a top-down exercise, but now it's really, we look forward to a bottom-up exercise to see how we can find these solutions in these 6 areas. There are some areas that you will see that where a lot of things are already going on and the community is already quite mobilized. Others, it's not really that, we still didn't reach that point, but I'm sure that in probably 1 or 1 year and a half time, we will have all the areas in the same level, and we will really, find effectively cooperate together and connect the north and the south. So I will pass to you, Zé, now.
Yeah. So. I think you are muted, Zé.
Sorry, Zé was muted. You are solving the problem?
Yeah.
1 second. Continuas muted.
So many buttons. No, okay, sorry about that. I mean, okay, again, I will try again. Now I edit the video, so we cannot see this blunder. So, I mean, actually, we are committed to a long-term pledging platform. What is important that this is not the end, this is just the beginning of the pledging platform, the pledging campaign. We are starting very well with 31 different pledges from several different countries around the Atlantic. Some of them are international, projects. So we are starting a very, very solid grounds now. So what we want now is to find ways. One, how can we try to, let's say, integrate or to make it more stronger the existing pledges? That's the reason of the separate workshops. And then how can the pledgers can help us to find more people that will be interested in participating in the pledges? There are several pledges coming, maybe another 15 or 20 in the next 2 or 3 months. I hope we have a very nice coverage of the Atlantic. but we should aim for much more than 100 until the end of the year. So we will have several workshops in the next, I mean, weeks or months. Starting, we are, I mean, Sophia asked us to prepare a networking Fridays on the pledges. And it's very interesting because we can reach, so you will be all invited to participate. I hope it will be a conversation like this one. So the idea is for us to keep contacting people one by one, institution by institution, but then ask them also to give us more contacts so we can spread the word. And then we have a critical mass of pledges, and then it will work by itself as I hope so. That's our hope. And we started very well. Don't you think so, Sophia?
Yes, I think, and I have here a question from Gonzalo, and we'd like to clarify that all countries, all experts, all institutions from Atlantic countries can submit pledges, not only those that have signed the Galway and the Belém statements. So we really look forward to find solutions from along and across the Atlantic Ocean. And I think we have kick-started very well. Now we have to keep this movement going and keep it alive. And of course, it doesn't only depend on us, it also depends on you and your willingness. And you have really showed that you are willing to connect to each other by participating in today's meeting. So from my side, I think it's everything. Maybe there we can split.
Everyone. One final comment is that if you identify any gap in terms of relevant stakeholders that are not involved on any one of these pledges, it will be very important to do that. You know, for example, we are missing non-governmental organizations, we are missing industry. So, I mean, governments maybe. So it would be very interesting for us to try to co-design a strategy to bring on board all of them. Okay. So if you click on the breakout rooms, okay, if you see there breakout rooms, there are 5 rooms already prepared for you. Those, again, who wants to discuss ocean observation, forecast, and monitoring, stay in this room, okay? This will be the only room that will be streamed, live streamed, okay? All the other rooms, unfortunately, cannot live stream. But I hope you can get enough information so we can discuss in the second part of this meeting. So if you could move to your, I mean, rooms, and then I meet you here at 3 o'clock. Sorry, yeah, 4 o'clock.
Well, this Universal Central Time.
Yeah,
4
UTC,
o'clock Universal,
please.
yes.
UTC, yeah. Okay.
Okay, very good. So let's move to the
see you on the other
room.
side. Okay, good.
Bye. See you in a while.
How do I do this?
So, Anna, if you want to start.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon to everybody. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly. Let me see if you can. Just 1 second. Can you see the screen? Can you hear me? Can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the All-Atlantic 2021 organization to moderate this theme, ocean observation, forecasting and monitoring. My name is Anna Martins. I'm an oceanographer and faculty member of the Department of Oceanography and Fisheries at the University of the Azores. So I thought today, just prior to beginning our discussion, just to give you a few photographs of our department. My view today at 6 o'clock in the morning, looking at Pico Mountain, which is the highest mountain of Portugal. Also, Porto Pim Bay, which is a very nice bay where I take coffee and some of my colleagues at the department every day. And is a very interesting, is located right here. I don't know if you see my cursor, but this is Horta Bay, which is the 4th most visited bay in the world, all surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean. And finally, just a photograph I took yesterday that was very interesting because we have now the Ocean Explorer research cruise and Pelagia vessels, both oceanographic vessels, now at Horta, and some of our colleagues from the department are actually in oceanographic missions with international colleagues. Now I'm going back to the whole Atlantic, not just the Azores, but as it was referred before, we want to highlight the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, 2021-2030. And the vision is a new vision for the Ocean Decade, which is quite interesting compared to some in the past with some other programs in the past, namely, for example, all programs as World Ocean Circulation Experiment, others for gathering data. But the vision now is different. It's a vision of integrating all in a sense of interdisciplinary, transnational, different nations. And in particular now we're talking about the Atlantic Ocean. And the idea is to go towards a sustainable development by 2030 and beyond. We don't have much time. We are 9 years from this 2030. So we think that the Atlantic R&I cooperation could be used as a model of the UN Decade of Ocean Science. So the criteria for this All-Atlantic 2021 pledging campaign was basically, there were 3 main criteria: voluntary, result-oriented personal institutional commitments. The idea was that the pledges or a pledge should be concise, specific, achievable and measurable. And so the pledges were encouraged to list concrete deliverables and to establish clear milestones, to set realistic targets, and also to be achieved during the period, the next 4 to 5 years. So pledges must report progress at least once every year in order to sustain this pledging. And the idea also is that one of the other criteria is that the pledge should be transdisciplinary, transnational, but obviously we also encourage local national pledges, including individual pledges, if they can also be potentially integrated in larger scale initiatives. So in this sense, the theme that we're going to discuss today related with ocean observation, forecasting and monitoring had 3 main challenges. The first one, to integrate existing and future observational efforts in the Atlantic Ocean, to fully map the Atlantic seafloor by 2030, and also a digital Atlantic Ocean from pole to pole. I've seen a message, a very quick message, and prior to speaking about that, as we said, there were several pledge solutions that were submitted. We had 11 pledges for this theme, the Atlantic Ocean observation, forecasting and monitoring. And the expected outcomes of these workshops altogether, as you know, there are parallel now workshops going on, is to be able to connect the different pledge solutions and also other initiatives that could be initiated during these workshops to eliminate the silos and to operationalize coordinated actions among existing initiatives. This can be either synergistic and or complementary, and finally to act as soon as possible to mobilize future pledges and to stimulate the co-creation among pledgers. So at this point, I would like very much to, I think since we have 11 pledges, would be very nice to have a few summary from each pledger and a summary on the description and the deliverables they proposed for their pledge. I saw an email, if I'm not wrong, I saw a message from Sarah Pitonnet Gaillarin saying that, yeah, okay, Sarah.
That's me.
So if the other two, I was actually going to follow the sequence that I have here, but maybe Sarah, you can advance because I know you have to leave.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate if you could go ahead and provide us a little bit of a brief.
Yeah, no, I also thank you for advancing me. So I represent here two teams since we have submitted two pledges. One is a pledge, so the one titled Towards an All-Atlantic Data Space for the Ocean, which was jointly submitted by a group of initiatives. So the BlueCloud project that I represent, the Anchor initiative, so the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance team, the G7 Future of the Seas initiatives, and another two European funded projects, Atlantico and iAtlantic. And together with them, just 2 hours ago, we organized one of the side events to this conference. And in fact, our pledge relates to that. The purpose of the workshop was to discuss and debate on what's missing to really reach an Atlantic data space from a broad perspective. And we had two rich panel with different representatives from the let's say the data providers community as well as the end user stakeholders. And I think that after this panel, we have more materials to extend the current pledge. So the current pledge aimed, let's say, at ensuring that there are channels to maintain a dialogue across the Atlantic to reach a common data space from the different perspectives. The outcomes of the workshop today, and I think I can share maybe, no, I can't share, but I mean, in case you like. No, I can. Great, yes. Thanks. We have few slides with, the wrap up of the session that might help getting the idea what we reached, because there are many topics behind that. So maybe we can concentrate on a few that were clearly stated all across the workshop. One is the need of professionalizations. So this is the slide. Professionalizations for data managers. So all across the region, we should focus on the human capacity, let's say, and the skills that, can you see my screen? Sorry. Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay, sorry, now I think so. Yeah. So on the skills that are needed all across the Atlantic region at different levels, but to make sure that we have a generation of data managers following let's say the fair approach to data management. Then we discussed a lot about the need of standards and standards and interoperability across the region. So this should be another point of sharing, across the different situations that we see in the Atlantic. And maybe if I just want to focus on another two things is the need to focus on data from their origin, let's say. So the issue of data, where is here? The data delivery. So how do we make sure that we get data from different actors, so from industry to citizen scientists and or from researchers, of course, and that they are all available for further reuse in a cross-Atlantic system. And this can be done only via, as said, knowledge but also standard processes, standard approaches and metadata, let's say, rules shared across the region. The last point is about engaging with the industry, because industry can play a role both at the data provider level as well as the data reuse, let's say. So industries are exploited already today for data provision across the seas, but we need policies to be sure that industry data come from industries are shared, as well as we need public-private partnerships to support the participation of industry in this process. So that's, I mean, it's a lot, I see, but we hope we can formulate this in some different ways for this pledge.
Thank you, Sarah. I was just going to ask you very quickly, because we're going to debate later on, is when you're referring all these data, are these national or international? You may have some problems with some international data.
Exactly, both. So according to organizations, of course, we have international organizations able to deal with the data across countries, but national policies are an issue, both at the level of repositories, at the level of legal aspects to share data across institutes. So yes, this was also one point raised, which it's different according to country. And
thank you very much. I don't know if, yeah.
No,
Sarah,
we also submitted another pledge on behalf of the BlueCloud initiative, but in that case, maybe I can leave the floor to my colleague Federico, who is with us today, and he can present this other pledge of what BlueCloud is bringing to the blue economy, let's say.
So you're going to leave now, so you won't be for the debate, but your colleague will be here.
Not sure if he can stay until the very end.
Okay.
I will give the presentation after the other two colleagues. But
okay.
Yeah, I cannot guarantee I will be for the final session.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Bye all.
So I'll probably now give floor to Nicholas Dietert, if he's here.
Can I please interject? I'm sorry to interject. There's quite a few of us who are unable to join breakout rooms, and we are being expected there. So could the organizers please help us? We've tried to raise the issue in chat, but we have not had any response from the organizers. So that's why I'm interjecting, and I apologize for the
let me see.
The interjection.
Sophia or José Moutinho, are you on this room at the moment? Just let me check.
There's a whole list on chat for people who are stuck in here who need to be elsewhere. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I just don't have the, if you just touch on the breakout room, you're not able to enter.
No, because my screen is blank. And I think a lot of other people have the same issue.
Okay, I've seen the messages here. I don't have the permission, I think. Yes, I don't have the permission. I'm just the moderator. Let me see. Nobody here from the organization is here at the moment. I'm just going to send a quick message to Sophia to see. I'm sorry that you have to watch out this one time, but I'm just going to send a quick message to Sophia just to say, actually, a quick message by telephone, just to say that you're experiencing this problem. Just 1 minute. Okay. Sofia, há um problema, várias pessoas querem ir para as outras sessões, não estão a conseguir ir. É Ana Martins, desculpa, estou na sessão. Não tem problema. Eles dizem que não dá. Eles dizem que não dá. Estão aqui várias. Sim, se tu puderes entrar e ver no instantinho, agradecia-te. Está bem, está bem. Está bom, até já, até já. Ok, Sophia, sorry, Sophia is going to enter.
Thank you so much.
In the room.
Thank you for your support.
Just 1 minute. You're welcome. You're very welcome. So I'll just go back to the presentation in the meantime. Nicholas Dietert, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, thank you so much. It's because on my screen I'm not seeing you now at this moment. Is it possible to have just a brief presentation of your pledge?
I will give a short oral presentation in just a minute or so.
Thank you.
So what is science all about? If you talk about data, it's creating information and it's creating knowledge. And for whom are we creating this information and this knowledge? At least for politics, because once they are going to make decisions, they should create the decisions on a knowledge-based information status. And so they must have access to the data, and the access to data should be done by data portals, which provide data in an appropriate way. So if you talk about the All-Atlantic Ocean and the All-Atlantic Ocean data, then it's all about observation, forecasting, and monitoring. We should integrate existing and future observational efforts of the Atlantic Ocean. We should fully map the Atlantic seafloor by 2030 would be a very good goal. And we should have a sort of digital Atlantic Ocean from pole to pole. So that means that we should actively search relevant data sources from the south and the tropical, as well as from the Southern Ocean, and collect and archive these data in a natural and social science world data centers. We should promote communication and data sharing among scientists through training events, workshops, and strategic planning meetings. And then we should take advantage of international consortia to support the identification of relevant stakeholders, data sources, networks, key players, and initiatives. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry again, I have a problem. I'm just speaking with Sophia. Yes, Sophia. Sim, sim. Não, são pessoas que estão na nossa sala, mas que iam, por exemplo, para Ocean Technology. Sim. Estão nas Breakout Rooms, não é? Sim. Exatamente. Ocean Technology e ingressam. Ok. Mas não parece aqui nenhum ingressão. Join, sim. Ok, vou passar. Okay, are there still any problems related with people entering? You have to choose breakout rooms. I'm just going to make a quick
we can't choose breakout rooms.
You cannot choose these?
No, because I don't have any choices on the breakout rooms. That's the problem. So it has to be someone has to allocate, and I presume that there's others who have the same problem.
Are there
they
any
have to
others?
allocate us to that breakout room.
Okay, yes, okay, Renuka, we will work on that. Okay.
Thank you. Once again, thank you. I'm sorry for these, so I'll just go back to the presentation. Thank you. Okay, just let me go back to the presentation and just to and go back to, let me see if you can see it. Okay, so let's go back to, thank you, Nicholas. So thank you very much for your short summary. So I'll invite now Audrey Hayson from GeoBlue Planet Initiative to speak a little bit about their pledge. Very quick, if possible. Audrey Hayson from Blue Planet Geo. Okay, since we don't have any answer, I'll just go back I'm sorry.
It's Brad DeYoung here. So this pledge is actually jointly with Atlantos as well.
Okay.
So since Audrey is not here, I'll just say a few words just to speak to it. So this is a pledge really to provide the kind of critical information that's needed in real time by various groups of focusing around primarily the tropical Atlantic. And so it's to build upon a sargassum information hub that already exists and to try to further engage users to provide the kind of real-time or near real-time data that can then be more widely shared. sargassum, as most know, is a really significant challenge for particularly Caribbean, but other regions in the tropical Atlantic. And so it's to create the virtual infrastructure to allow better sharing of information, but in particular to allow information that can be used in a real sense, managerially, to respond to sargassum. So it's a partnership between various groups in the US, in the Caribbean, through GeoBlue Planet and through Atlantos. So thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I did see some presentations this morning and they were quite impressive. So there's a lot of, we can see there's already a lot of amount of work already up there. So it'll be very nice to see in the next few years the development of this work. I would go now to BlueCloud, demonstrating the potential web base. So it was with...
Yes, it's me. Hi, it's Federico. I'm the colleague.
Federico.
I am Sarah's colleague. Can I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. All right, let's see if it works. Yeah, I'll try and be very quick, actually, because of course, I mean, we've mentioned BlueCloud in Sarah's speech before. So basically, it's a European Horizon 2020 project. As you can see here, there's many partners involved, especially from the European marine science environment. And the aim is to create a web-based environment that will enable open science in the marine domain. And that's also the main rationale behind our pledge. And what we're doing is basically just aligning with some of the main objectives from international initiatives such as the Sustainable Development Goals, the Decade of Ocean Science launched by the United Nations this year. And we're doing this, we're demonstrating the potential of BlueCloud through 5 different demonstrators which tackle different areas of marine science. So we have plankton, we have genomics, we have marine environmental indicators, fisheries, and aquaculture. Mm-hmm. I will not speak individually of them, like you can go on the website and find more info about the specific demonstrators. These are the data infrastructures that are being federated within BlueCloud. So you can see some of the major European marine infrastructures such as IMODNet, such as SeaDataNet, there's EuroArgo, there's the ENA. So all the data from all of these collectors and aggregators will be made available through a data access and discovery service through BlueCloud. And let me go on. And these data then will be exploitable by researchers through a virtual research environment where they will be able to collaborate and even to create specific virtual laboratories, as you can see here. So these are the 5 demonstrators, and each of them has a dedicated virtual lab where people can access and share the results and collaborate with other researchers. BlueCloud is also part of the European Open Science Cloud framework, and it will be interoperable with the rest of the ecosystem. And we've been cooperating with a series of projects and initiatives, such as the ones we've worked with during this event, such as Atlantico, such as iAtlantic. And just one thing before I close. So we're about to launch a public consultation for our roadmap to 2030, which is one of our key deliverables together with the virtual research environment and the data discovery and access service. And we actually invite the community when we launch it in mid-June to take part in it and help us co-create this document. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Frederic. Very interesting. Once again, quite a huge effort there, and we realize there's a lot of people involved in this type of effort. I'll go now very quickly to Luis Pedro Almeida for Plaza Atlântico Lab towards democratization of science with a free cloud-based tool to monitor shoreline evaluation. Luis Pedro, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Luis Pedro Almeida from Plaza Atlântico, and this pledge is a joint pledge also with University of Santa Catarina in Brazil Federal University of Rio Grande, also in Brazil, and Univali from Brazil. So this pledge is basically was the development of a tool that we made together that is called Cassie. And this tool, I will provide the link in the chat in the second. And with this tool that was built with the cloud computing technology, which is a recent technology. In this case, we use Google Earth Engine. It's free and also allows us to map and analyze shoreline position and trend at any coastal region in the world using the satellite imagery that is available in this platform. So we developed the methods, the tools that people can access and can use and apply anywhere in the world, and is a free tool. And also, it's an important advantage. It's that it can operate at any different platform, including a normal desktop computer, laptop, or a smartphone. It does not require really powerful computing tools. Which makes it really highly portable, and this is an important advantage regarding developing countries which have not such good logistics to access this information, to process this information. So this pledge is basically to provide these tools that can people can access information and also perform analysis with this information at any place in the world. So basically, with this tool, we can have different and distinct end users or different applications, such as it can be used in teaching at the university to understand coastal process and coastline evolution. Can be also used in scientific research and bringing more information and more tools to people develop their scientific research, and also being used in coastal monitoring programs at a regional, local, or national level. And our main aim with this pledge is to officialize the effort that we are doing in offer formations such as workshops that can facilitate the use of this tool for everyone, basically.
Thank you, Luis. This was actually very interesting information that we had no knowledge. So it's once again is a very good piece of information that I think in a medium scale or very short scale we'll be able to connect with other initiatives involved. We are running a little bit out of time. I'm going to ask now Francisco Campuzano. Are you there, Francisco?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Francisco. Very nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
So, Francisco, I'm going to show you very short on the next ones because we're running a little bit out of time for the debate. Can you just very briefly introduce your pledge?
Okay, so I have two pledges and I will try to do the two of them one after the other and very fast. So when I was asked about what were the type of pledges that we were able to provide to this event, I was thinking on two actions where we are putting information or efforts in research together on both sides of the Atlantic. So one of them is called, so the two pledges, one is related to Marinette, that is an activity that we are doing with rivers, and the other one is Mohit, that is a numerical model that is used in many places. So if I can share my screen, I will show you just.
Yes, you can. I'm not sharing the screen. You're welcome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now I think that I'm sharing my screen. So here I'm showing you the Marinette physics web, where you can select the information from rivers, because even if myself I'm an oceanographer, when we go especially to the blue economy, we need reliable and uniform data from river discharge, especially when we are talking even operationally, we need like near real-time data. So we are building, in collaboration with Marinette, a database, or we are implementing near real-time information of many rivers in many areas. So we are an assembly center, so we are not measuring anything, but we are collecting the data, making it uniform, and distributing through the Marinette platform. So here you can see that we already have started to add some of the rivers in other countries. So here we have also some from the US, I guess at some time. So you go here and then you click, you can see this is the station of in Savannah, and then you can see the evolution of well, this can sometimes take some time to read, but then you can download NetCDF or CSV files. So the idea is that we can provide also this information you can see here. So this is from, there's always some kind of delay in how the data is provided, but the data is made in near real time. So what we are looking here with this pledge is to try to export this capacity and this database to other areas in the Atlantic. So if there are other colleagues or partners that they know where the information in their country is, they can contact us and we can make all the process to make this information available. So this is one pledge that is related with Marinette and river near real-time river information available. And the second one is about the Mohit. So the Mohit is a numerical model that is open source and it has water sets, estuarine. They have two main modules. One is Mohit water and the other one is Mohit land. So we can simulate water sets, but we can also simulate coastal areas, and we can see near the estuaries and open ocean. So this is an open source mode, and here I'm showing you some of the institutions that are using it. This is not a comprehensive list. And in blue are some of the applications of the model of Mohit water, and in green some of the applications of Mohit land. This is not fully updated, but we are covering also many of the oceans. But we have many users, as you can see, especially in South America. We have many colleagues in Brazil that they are using it. Also, we have colleagues in Argentina, but also in Angola. And we have many applications in the Atlantic area. And this is the idea is that during this pledge, we can try to increase this network and also to allow other users to have a look at it. Just to give you an idea of some of the main contributors to the code, we are releasing annually binaries, but in terms of our research, this is growing. In terms of journal publications, we have like more than 250 publications within books and journal. And also for research, we have about 80 PhD and MSC's thesis prepared using this software. So,
thank you, Francis. This is quite impressive, and I think it's very interesting that the two options, one as a assemblage center and as distributor, basically under this framework of much higher framework of Marinette, or much larger, and then Mohit, which obviously I've been following the evolution, and Mohit is quite impressive model. It's quite impressive. It just didn't apply only for the Atlantic, but as well Indian, and I saw also Pacific. So it's quite impressive work, and I really look forward also as for your pledge. So I'll go without losing more time to Emily Smale from GeoBlue Planet, supporting connections between ocean and coastal scientists and society. Emily, is Emily there from GeoBlue Planet? So, no. So I'll go to KZ Cantwell from NOAA Ocean Exploration. Casey? No. Okay, and Marcelo Rolinic from Federal University of Para.
Hi, hello everybody. Can I share my screen?
Yes, obviously, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel.
Okay.
Your work is your pledge is related with Amazon, coastal zone, and Atlantic Ocean.
Okay. It's okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I am Marcelo Rolnick from Federal University of Pará, here in Brazil, Amazon coast. And we work in the Amazon Coast Observatory. That the vision is gather and share data in ocean, rivers, estuaries, and mangroves. And we have collect data, about 10 years of data. And We work with public and social service, science, economy, and global cooperatives. Visit our site, oca.eco.br, and we have in the OCA that database with the observational and the predict. And the connect, we have OCA academic, social, and highlights. In the observational, we have many stations that we work with: salinity, temperature, water level, turbidity, and real-time weather data with some stations. We are increasing our constellation of points of stations, and all this information are sharing to the scientists of the region, of the Amazon region. And we did some tide predictions on the Amazon coast zone here in our predict. And we work too with models. We have many modeling in some projects with Mohit and Delft. We work here in this region, Amazon, Para River, and continental shelf. We have many gaps here in the Amazon coast. The continuum, river, Amazon coast to the ocean, have many gaps to understand, like the influence on the sargassum at the Amazon coral reef. So we are working with this database. Okay, Connect, we have academic where you can find all the papers and the white in the green literature that are did here in the Amazon. You can get this publication. The OCA Social, we have a net of citizen science that work with debris in all the coast, the Amazon coast, and the highlights where we live for the community, the highlights in a more easy way to understand the things. So OCA is collaboration, and you are invited to collaborate with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was actually very interesting, again, that we already see some collaboration with other countries, namely, I heard that you're working with Mohit, so obviously also with Portugal here, and I'm pretty sure it's very interesting to see, because South Atlantic, as you know, there are a lot of gaps, and particularly there's been a lot of effort on North Atlantic, but a lot of gaps are still lacking, not only North Atlantic, but very much on the South Atlantic. And so all these events and all these efforts are actually quite relevant. I'm just going very quickly now to open the debate. I don't know how much time I have. I think we are actually surpassed the time. And so I'm just going to share the screen again very quickly. And just one moment. And
sorry, Yana, you have more.
Yes.
You have more 10 minutes until 4:15.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because it just went really fast.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to open the debate now in 10 minutes. It's a debate to everybody that is present now. So not only for the pledges, but everybody else. I've heard that there's some All-Atlantic Ocean Youth ambassadors here. I don't know if in this session, but they're very welcome also too. And any politicians, stakeholders, general public that is actually present today are very welcome to debate. So in very quickly, one of the questions we would like to ask to you, and once again open, is how do you think these different pledge solutions activities support each other? In the sense that now we've heard only in this theme, we've heard 11 different pledges, but we also know that there are other pledges for the other 5 themes. So do you have any idea or any ideas of how to combine or to support these activities together in the framework of an activity that is a joint effort, basically? Maybe some of the pledges would like to give any idea, because one of the things that I'm sorry, I took I'm sorry, I took the PowerPoint presentation. One of the problems is that how we're going to continue these pledges. This is a little bit of a different concept where in the past, we know that there are all these initiatives, sometimes separate initiatives, and how we're going to combine in a joint pledging effort. And once again, I'm just trying to put the presentation on, sorry. Does anybody would like to make a comment about this? And the floor is open. Do you think it will be easy task to do it? If we don't have, this is not finance, this is pretty much an effort from the different pledgers, but it's not, at this point, it's still not financed. And so maybe one way is by combining efforts in order to provide in the future some financial support. Do you think this is possible through now this gathering all these pledgers, let's say? And that could be one way to go.
Can I make a
yes,
comment?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Well, I think with the presentations that were made here, maybe it was there is information enough to assess the spatial distribution of the proposals or of the data or of the tools that exist. I've for example, I've not seen too much information or even proposals from Africa, from the South Atlantic and from the African coast, or from any of parts. So maybe one thing that we can help together each other is to identify these gaps or these or in terms of regions where information is lacking, and maybe make the effort to invest our efforts in these pledges towards these areas. Maybe this could be a way to use all the information from all the pledges, all the proposals that were made here.
Yes, I think you are right. You're correct. We can see, obviously, it was the response in a very short time was quite interesting, but we still, there are gaps. That was one of the questions I had later on. Which ones do you think? And you already said, Luis, that possibly in Africa. I did see this morning a few presentations about data and processing, even from South Africa, but not really from north of Africa. So there was from Angola, Namibia. I did see more about South Africa efforts. And I do remember going, for example, to Angola, and I was very amazed at how they had so many sensors and instrumentation, but they're not using those either to collect data or then to process the data later on. So there's obviously an effort that has to be done for some of these regions that are not providing this type of data, even at the regional or even national level, much less on the international level. Another question I think that is important is, I think it's important to differentiate, not just to be, which comes a little bit for with the first question, is that this should not be the pledging, not just an inspiration at this level, but a concrete implementation and impact. And how can we make this pledging impact? Because one thing is to say, I am a pledger, so I'm going to work towards that. The other thing is, should that be reinforced after that? Because it's not a reinforcement, but by having to report, do you think this could be a concrete way? For example, every 6 months or every 1 year, you have to report the activities. Could that be a way to reinforce the pledging? Do you think this is appropriate?
If I may say something, yes, Florence, from the AA Marinette Joint Action, I've not presented the pledge, but this is, to make it quickly, it's about the All-Atlantic Marine Research Infrastructure Network.
Oh, yes.
And to go straight, basically, the objective is to optimize the use of existing marine research infrastructures in the Atlantic. And we are currently building the network. And I'm jumping to the previous question. You mentioned Angola, for example, and yes. Also in Senegal, we already have some partners because we are trying to have, in addition to workshops, several one-to-one meetings to identify every relevant initiatives to join the network. And it will take time, but we think it's important if we want to have something inclusive and long-term. To respond to this question, I would say that a first important step is indeed to share information and having regular meetings, not too often, of course, but having regular meetings to have an overview of what each pledge is doing, what are the steps that are conducted, and maybe joining maybe to help each other to join our initiatives, because I've seen in the different pages, the one on the Amazon we just had, it's very interesting for our coastal activities. But right now, I don't know exactly how it will be, it can be implemented. But it's important to keep in touch and to see how we can connect on the long term. So I think regular sharing information first and regular meetings can be useful for this.
Thank you. Actually, it's quite relevant. One of the things that you were saying also, another thing that was actually spoken previously was the fact that some countries are not so willing to provide the data, and sometimes it's for economy reasons, and for example, for fisheries, or for example, for data mining, in terms of seabed mapping, because there are some economic concerns. So you can actually, how to deal with this, we have to go slowly. For some countries, this is not taken so, particularly in their economic exclusive zone. So did you have any experience with that? Just to ask you, with obtaining data for other countries that might have put some let's say, some barriers towards providing the data?
I don't have personal experience on this, no, but I know that when you approach as a network or as a bigger consortia, it's easier to get access to data.
To the data, yes, exactly. Thank you. So I'll just go very quickly for the third question. So what do we need to do and maximize the use of existing results from finalized initiatives and projects? And one of the things was also mentioned previously is that there's so many data available, and old data. Sometimes this data is still on reports, on written reports, and also data that are on old DVDs and old CDs and etc. And they're not available. So one of the things that probably would be very interesting is to be able as well to obtain this type of old data, and in order to digitalize it and to normalize this data to be able to use it for other purposes. Did any of you that have worked with this type of data, are you doing an effort of getting also historical data, of maximizing the usage of this type of data that are still not available? But so many, it's not long time back in Portugal, we have a lot of data that are hidden in libraries, in reports. They're written, they are not digitalized. Is there a common effort as well to obtain this type of historical data for data providers?
So Anna Brad de Young here. I think I'm going to, well, I'll comment on that quickly, but then perhaps mention the other two questions as well. I agree that data archaeology, enhancing the value of data that's hidden is very valuable. I just want to say that I think this pledge initiative is is interesting, and I like the idea of it. I think the question of how to realize this most effectively requires a wider engagement of the various partners around ocean observation. And if I had to say what was the key kind of challenge, that would be it, that many of us here, many of the pledges are from research groups that are committing to do particular things, and they're making that commitment public, which is great. But what we also need is to have funders, nation states, private sector partners engaged in this activity, and they should be looking to their interests in supporting pledge activities or supporting things that are maybe not yet pledged. And so I think the real challenge for success and the real need for implementation around that has to do with fully engaging and bringing other partners into the discussion. And hopefully this All-Atlantic meeting will help to do that. But I would say that's the kind of key step to both expand and to realize these existing pledges.
Yes, actually, Brad, that makes me maybe 1-2 weeks back, there was a webinar about the AMOC circulation and about some stations around the world. And one of the questions I asked actually the people who have their stations is do you have like a common, let's say, funding to have these stations, the AMOC stations? And the answer was no. That was really each one on their own. So that means it's a country. So most of those stations are from Canada and US, who had the possibility to support these oceanographic stations. So that brings me again to the same, to actually the next question, with the framework and the conditions to ensure these, and which is a little bit what you're saying now, to maximize these, you need other players here in order to continue to support these, because for some countries, it might be extremely difficult to make these pledges and to keep up with these pledges, in the sense that not all the necessary players are here together. So finally, I would like to give you one, probably because we don't have much time, is what are those key, sorry, Jose?
Anna, everybody already came back to the main room.
Okay.
So if you just give your final comments now, and then we start the discussion among the whole of all pledges, okay?
Okay. Basically, it was just the last question that's actually related with some of the pledges and other colleagues mentioned, is the question of that we're lacking some actors here that are not yet involved in the pledging campaign, and how can we bridge, and I leave probably this floor open with this, the gap with those actors that are not still on the pledging, they are not pledgers yet. Thank you, and I leave this. I don't know if you'd like to discuss this, Zé. Zé Moutinho? Zé?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Please go on. I just had this last question, but actually I can interrupt here, or I don't know if you'd like to discuss this.
Oh, no, so we have to move to everybody now.
Okay.
So welcome back. I hope you had a very productive conversation in each one of these areas. One important thing is that I can only record one of the sessions, and the session that was recorded is the ocean observation. So I would really appreciate if you could me send some notes, especially on some observations regarding how to maintain the pledge platform. It will be very important, how to mobilize more people and how to engage more stakeholders. It will be very important for us. Your feedback will be crucial for the success of this initiative. And maybe now we could start the main, okay, it's already there. Joanna, go on. Okay, Joanna and
yes,
Patrick.
Sorry, I was still muted. Great.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much.
You can hear me well now, yes? Okay,
yes,
excellent.
Yes.
So brilliant. Good afternoon, everyone, or perhaps good morning, depending a little bit of where in the Atlantic you're joining us from. I'm really pleased to welcome you back now to the second part of the All-Atlantic Research and Innovation Solutions workshop. And the idea here is now to really discuss, based on the discussions that were held in the different thematic groups, ways to maximize this cooperation and thinking of it cooperation from pole to pole under this All-Atlantic Ocean Initiative. My name is, maybe I should introduce myself. My name is Rona Xavier. I'm a researcher at the Interdisciplinary Center for Marine and Environmental Research at the University of Porto in Portugal. And I will be joined by Patrick Einbach from the University of Texas at Austin, joining us from the US, and will help summarize also and report on these discussions at the session that will be held tomorrow with the ministers and the high-level institutional representatives. So all of the discussions that we're holding today will be further summarized and brought to that meeting tomorrow. And I know that you've all been engaging in these very fruitful discussions in the first part of the workshop, and already finding was very interesting to see a lot of these potential linkages and synergies being found between the different pledges already now in the previous session, and how different views are really coming together in how we can maximize this cooperation. So the submitted pledges, as also Jose has mentioned before, and some of which are represented in this slide, were very, very diverse, both in terms of their scope and scale, but also in terms of the types of actors involved, as well as the stage of implementation. So some of the pledges, as also Sophia was mentioning, the communities were already quite well mobilized, and things were already being implemented. So this was, let's say, this pledge. For some of these were more, let's say, a light touch compromise, because these initiatives are really already ongoing, but others are in much earlier stages of their implementation, and some, like the All-Atlantic Blue Schools, were just launched now. Jose has also mentioned this. So in all, we've had 31 submitted pledge solutions as of today, actually, and there has been a very steady increase in the submission over the past few days. And I guess this is a reflect that people and organizations are becoming more aware as well of this pledging campaign. And this is going to be, as Jose was saying, this is a starting point for this pledging platform. A large proportion of these pledges, as we can see here, are on ocean observation, and that's not very surprising. There are great efforts occurring a lot across the entire Atlantic with regards to ocean observation, forecasting and monitoring, with 11 pledges so far. But also on food security and ocean resources and biodiversity, also with 7 pledges. And of course, there were fewer submitted to other thematic areas. But as it was mentioned before, this may change as also the pledging campaign moves forward and unfolds over the coming weeks and months. And very important, and this was mentioned also in a few of the thematic discussions, is the fact that there is one cross-cutting pledge that was submitted by the Air Center that will provide long-term, a 10-year support for the pledge platform. And it was already recognized that this is something very important to really ensure the coordination of these all of these pledges coming together, which of course now we're talking about 30 pledges, but in the near future maybe we're talking about a few hundred. The goal of the second part of the workshop really is to achieve a sort of more of an integrated and holistic overview of all the pledges that were submitted, and also try to foster the connectivity and complementarity, and not only between pledges within thematic areas, but also across the thematic areas. The best way probably to do this is to start by getting a short summary of the discussions that were held under each thematic areas by the respective moderators. And particularly on what their outcomes were with regards to those 3 main topics that they were asked to discuss around. So on one hand, the connections among the different pledge solutions and the identification of other potential initiatives that could link with these solutions, but also on the operationalization of these coordinated actions among the different initiatives, which are synergistic or complementary, and also which actions could be put forward to mobilize future pledgers and also to stimulate the co-creation of non-pledgers. So I will now give the floor to the colleagues that have moderated each one of these thematic sessions. And I'll just ask them to be brief so that we have some time for a more open discussion among all the participants, and including pledgers, of course. Any questions or comments that any of the participants may have, please note them down or just post them in the chat. And I'll ask maybe Patrick and also Sophie and Jose to help me keeping an eye on the chat, so that we can give you all the floor at the end of this summary, after these summaries are presented. So these were, just to say that these were the main expected outcomes of this second session, was to really identify the actions to connect the different thematic areas, and how to connect to the different actors involved. How do we eliminate the silos and bridge across fields and stakeholders? Also to identify actions that could strengthen the coordination among the existing initiatives. How can we mobilize future pledgers and stimulate the co-creation? And these probably need to be a bit more targeted to the various actors and building, really built bottom up from, local action for global impact type of approach. But also identify what are the key enablers promoting this pole-to-pole cooperation, as well as the necessary framework conditions. So I will now give the floor to my colleagues in the different thematic areas, and we can start with ocean health, climate variability and ecosystem approaches, which is moderated by Marina Carreiro Silva from the Oceanos Research Center at the University of the Azores. Marina, the floor is yours. And I'll stop sharing for now.
Hello. I didn't have time to prepare any slides, so I'll just give a brief overview because this was all very quick. In our thematic area, we had floor pledges. One of the pledges was Coast Sense, and it was targeting the use of remote sensing and modeling approaches to predict hazard risks to societies that live, coastal societies. So it's more in the sense of climate change impacts on coastal areas and on human populations. The other three pledges were more related to ocean literacy and how you can translate the scientific outputs of related to climate change and multiple stressors and reach the civil society. There was also one of the pledges which was targeting how to increase access or how to integrate the opinions of the civil society in all aspects of marine spatial planning, and that becomes very important because of the multiple stressors that the oceans are facing. And discussing what were the synergies between the different pledges, we agreed that there was this, so the common message was that human populations were put forward in these pledges. So that's interesting because usually as an ocean scientist, you are used to have more of the biological components of the ecosystem, and in these pledges, humans were put first. We should find a common platform to translate the scientific findings into simple language to reach the civil society, and instead of creating a completely new platform, because that involves a lot of resources. We could use things that were already in place. For example, the All-Atlantic Blue School network could have a very important role in translating, reaching schools and children and the civil society. So I'm reading through my notes, sorry, because it was all very fast. Some people identified the Ocean Literacy Portal as another platform that could contribute to reach the public and to disseminate information. And here, one of the pledges, which was providing a pilot study on gathering the people's perception on the priority areas of need for translating climate change or assessing the impact of climate change on human societies, could provide a methodological approach to use by different stakeholders. There was the concern that we need to create opportunities to reach more schools that are already connected to the Blue School, and there seems to be opportunities to increase by looking into different countries. They can start a movement by working in a specific country. They can build the momentum to reach other schools. And then we reached the conclusion that the young ambassadors have a very important role in connecting to the civil society, because a common concern of researchers is that it's difficult to translate your science into simple language and reach the public in general. And young ambassadors, they already have in place training that helps them to make this connection. So we identified that it was important to involve the young ambassadors or the young generation in translating for example, policy briefs. So usually the science is translated into policy, and then it's difficult to reach in simple terms, the civil society, and young ambassadors would have a very important role in that. We identified that universities and research projects were missing from the pledgers. So, and that maybe a way would be to create, of involving them would be to create a common platform where the scientific information could be placed, and have people like the young ambassadors translate this information into simple language that can reach the civil society. We also think that there are other pledgers in other thematic areas, like the One Ocean Hub, or like, for example, the NOAA initiative that even if they are contributing more towards monitoring and gathering information about just exploration of habitats, then they could also contribute to this other specific area on climate change, because they collect information about the environment, like MBON, that gathers information about the biodiversity in general, and then can be important to build a baseline to detect changes in the future. I don't know if I addressed specifically the questions that were, the 3 questions that were raised. I just made a summary of our discussion.
Oh, but that is good. I think you touched upon a number of those points, and I think it is very interesting to see that you have identified, as others have as well, education as and literacy really as an enabler for this cooperation pole to pole. So with of course the All-Atlantic Blue School and the Young Ambassadors potentially playing a very important role there, because they are already quite well organized. These are things that have they already have a very large geographical scope. So it's an excellent way to bring these efforts together. So thank you, Marina. I would move on to ocean observation, forecasting and monitoring, and pass the word to Ana Martins. This has been probably one of the most challenging discussions because there were so many pledges around this theme.
Yes, we didn't have much time for discussion. And also there was this problem with people that could not go to the other sessions, so kind of interrupted a little bit. But nevertheless, the pledges presented, they made a small summary of their pledging. And actually it was quite interesting because you realize there's a tremendous amount of effort already going on at all levels in the Atlantic and from different players. But it was a common in the discussion that there were identified a few gaps, and basically not only at the level of the players, as we spoke before, anywhere from stakeholders, industry, non-governmental organizations, but also data gaps. And one of the things that actually we had the chance to see some works that are being done on the South Atlantic, and also was mentioned some works in Africa. But there's definitely in the South Atlantic that there's definitely a lot of work still to do in terms of data. The North Atlantic is covered more in that regard. And so there's even from, let's say, larger players that already have like Marinette and etc. There's an interest to combine a little bit with what the other smaller, let's say, players are doing, and to be able to integrate these data at some point. One of the things was very nice to see is that the different pledges are already, some of them already interacting among themselves. So, for example, there's the case of some pledges providing, being an assemblage center and distributing data for Marinette, for example. And then on their own as well to be able to provide services for other regions of the world. And we actually realized it was not only in the Atlantic, but also in Indian and the Pacific. Also the blue, for example, the Sargassum region was spoken, one of the pledges, because it's a very particular region. So there's also concerted already action towards addressing in specific areas such as Sargassum. It was very interesting to see also the work that is being done, for example, under BlueCloud, and how they're combining anywhere data from plankton and genomics and fisheries, aquaculture, and so forth, and in trying to integrate all these data and providing then including in some cases free tools. That's the case also with, we realized with Collab and with, for example, Brazil, being able to provide free tools, also educational tools. It was spoken also the interest to apply for not only for research purposes, but also to provide information that may be useful for other targets and educators and so forth. Another thing that was actually referred was in terms of the possibility. One of the things we spoke was about how to reinforce a little bit this pledging, and somebody commented that by sharing the information and having regular meetings, that would be one way to know each other and to provide and not only this collaboration knowing, but also to be able to collaborate in the future. But it was very important to have players that in one way we can obtain funding for this type of future collaborations, because as we know, this pledging now doesn't involve any funding, but it would be interesting if it could later on be integrated in something more realistic in order to continue this pledging. So there were several highlights, including the work has been done in terms of not only academic, but citizen science, and some real-time data that is available, not yet internationalized. For example, that was the case in Amazons, for example. But this data, once I explained before, it was very interesting for the other international players that could provide this. So basically, I think we didn't have much time to, it was too much, but I think what it came out from this is that there's already some of this work I was not, some of the bigger one, let's say, I was aware, not probably other players, and I'm pretty sure they're still lacking a lot of very important players here. So it'd be nice to add for this theme, to add new players in the future. That's pretty much it. Joanna.
Thank you, Anna. That's a great summary. And thank you for being able to put that so elegantly together in such a short time frame with so many pledges submitted. So now I would move on to give the floor to Isabel Sousa Pinto from CIMAR here at the University of Porto.
Yeah, I'll try to I have a slide.
Sure, Isabel.
I'll try to put together, well, I don't see it anymore here. So can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Good. So I'll try to organize all these notes. And then my colleagues that were in the session, they may add something. But for these three topics, so connections among the different pledge solutions and other initiatives. Well, we had our pledges were 7, but they were quite well divided. We had 4 in agriculture and 3 on biodiversity. And there was already a lot of collaboration between the people that and the institute, the programs that presented these pledges. So actually we did not discuss very much about them, but we just discussed that so for this platform to go on, we should really have regularly bring in pledges that have the same interest to really talk together. And also then to co-design either new pledges or merging different pledges, or really working to become complementary so they can work better together. Then, of course, there are still many initiatives that can be attracted to present pledges in these areas. And for instance, the All-Atlantic projects, there are 2 that presented pledges, but there are still many on ecosystems that are really in this area. And they are already committed to do several things that could be presented here, and we should encourage them to do so. But also it was said that there's not only we should not only seek to have more pledges, but to have pledges that are supported with more people, really that bring together more people, because this would be probably much more efficient and will have much bigger impact. There was, so for people that are thinking about new pledges, there was, for instance, a mention on pledge for better use of fisheries biomass that is discarded at the moment, and this is the case for Namibia, for instance. And they will be interested in a pledge really to use better this biomass that is collected for fisheries. We did not have any pledge on fisheries, so this was something that we would like to have in the future. Then there was also the mention of bringing the young ambassadors to work on this connection and different pledges, and also for new needs for the future. And in terms of operationalization of the coordination actions among existing initiatives, so there's reference again on this co-design, and some of the proponents, they say, well, they did it a very short time, but now knowing other pledges, they would probably like to reformulate them, that this is possible, this is an evolving action, and really to make them work better in synergy. And then how to attract more this advertising and really create an interest. This could attract more people to do it. And also to was a suggestion of tracking progress and how this platform is evolving, and really to show its success as a way to attract more people to make pledges. Then having matchmaking platform, having a mechanism to really bring together in an easy way when you have many pledges, really to bring in an easy way the platforms that have more similarities and more that can be identified by this platform, who is managing the platform, as having a lot of things in common, and they should get together. And then there was this model from ICES that I'm not going to say more, and if they're of interest, the person that proposed this can explain better. Then actions to mobilize future pledges and stimulate the co-creation. So the co-creation was already addressed, but actually there was a suggestion to make this badge to put in the projects or programs institution website to saying, I made a pledge for making more sustainable use of the ocean or something like that. Really something that people would like to show. This is of course a small thing, but this can actually work for some small companies and things like that that may want to have pledges. And then also encourage, you know, project coordinators and to keep their to keep pledges on the agenda, really to showcase what they are doing and to cooperate and to bring more people and to cooperate with more with similar projects and with more people. So I would like to ask my colleagues if there was something else that they wanted to add.
Thank you, Isabel. That was great, and great to see some very concrete actions there with regards to the operationalization of these activities. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Just wanted to highlight that again. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to post them on the chat, and we'll try to follow them up after we finish now these summaries. Okay. So thank you, Isabel. So now we will move on to ocean technology, and I'll give the floor to Marco Alves from the CoLab Plus Atlantic. Marco.
Okay. So we had in our room a very lively discussion. Unfortunately, too short. We had 3 pledges. 2 focus on training, one on sustainability and low carbon ocean technologies, and the other one in microbiomes. And the third one was basically the presentation of a pilot zone for demonstration ocean technology in a very wide approach, let's say, from aquaculture, energy, robotics, etc. So the discussion now is quite challenging because I need to understand what I wrote in my notes, which is not an easy task, but I try to do my best. The first one, firstly, we explored the links between the pledges, and those were quite evident for everybody. From one particular reason, we need training. We need trained people to support the demonstration, and later the sectors themselves. So we need to prepare people to work in renewable energy. We need to prepare people to work in aquaculture. We need to prepare people to work on offshore activities. And there's, of course, we are talking about emerging sectors, and there's a gap in well-trained people. So this is basically the most strong link that we identified in these pledges. Then the idea was to think on how to measure this linkage in a very effective way. How can we define KPIs to translate the effectiveness of this linkage? Here I must confess that we will need more time to go deep on this question. It's not easy, at least because it's something like more tangible. What could be a KPI for this? So some ideas: the number of training people, how these training people are aligned with the needs of the market. is critical. This point is very important. The number of technologies tested in the pilot zone that was discussed, the TRL achieved, others like more on the market side related to the number of companies created based on business models related to these technologies that were tested. So this is basically to give an idea on the more tangible KPIs that we mentioned in the discussion. Then another point that was discussed was the needs of sharing data to evolve in these pledges. So and there was two different factors here. One, the scientific world, and the other, the industrial world. On the scientific world, things are okay. So sharing data, having access to information is not critical, is not difficult. To some extent, is easy. And there's a lot of platforms, papers, and so on that facilitate the access to information. On the industry, on the industrial world is not in fact the same case. When companies are involved in these activities, in ocean activity, well, not only ocean activities, but of course in the context that we are talking about is ocean, is not the same case, because in many cases the business model of the company is deeply related to the information they have with data they have access, and sharing this is too critical for them, and of course they prefer to hide this information. So this is something like a good example from Brazil is the Bamba. I don't know if is the correct name, the Bamba platform. That is a platform with open access, with a lot of information on microbiomes that people can access. But this is the exception, is not the rule. So when the industry, when companies are on board, things with data become more critical. So then we had more aspects on, we address more aspects on initiatives to support the pledges. There's a few that initiatives that are required to support the pledges. Is not from the demonstration point of view, demonstration of technologies point of view, the need of policy support mechanism to attract developers to test the technologies, and to some extent to promote the creation of a supply chain is critical. From education, the thing is not exactly the same, because there is on place some mechanisms like financial mechanisms like the Green Deal program, which is well aligned with training issues. One point that was a keyword here was that the government should unlock resources for research, but this is pretty well known.
Marco, sorry for interrupting. Maybe Jose, could you please mute or one of the participants?
Yeah, we are trying. Yes. We are trying to do that.
Yeah,
I'm not able to do it from here. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm almost done.
Everyone, please make sure you are muted, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Except myself, I suppose.
Exactly.
I think is okay
Seems
now.
to be okay. Go ahead. Thank you.
So the last point we address is basically the stakeholders or the actors that should be involved in the pledges, and the bridge, and how to fulfill or to bridge the gap that exists. And the keyword here was visibility. So showing what we are doing, sharing the results, highlighting what has been done. And this is the way to bring more people on board, to bring other actors, other stakeholders, and get those companies, research centers, well, stakeholders involved in these initiatives. So basically, just highlighting that the keyword here, in fact, was visibility, and visibility is to some extent achieved with events of this kind and other type of similar events. Okay. So this is basically the sum up of the discussion we had. I have a few more notes here, but I think these are basically the most important ones.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you for this great overview, and it was very interesting. I was able to join your discussions for a little while, and it was very interesting to see that there are some challenges that occur in this sort of science and technology interface that we don't see probably in other areas. And I remember one of your participants mentioning that there was more support needed, for instance, from insurance companies. This is something we only seldomly think about, but that is super critical to bring some of those actors on board to further test and develop technology. And this is apparently is a big challenge in the field.
When we test the technology offshore, we are talking about 10, 20 million. So we need insurance for that. It's not like playing with 20 or 13 euros. It's millions and millions. So of course, it's a different scale, and insurance is critical in this. That
was also mentioned in your session, the high risk investment, which is also something that perhaps is not so critical in other fields, but that is very important here.
This is a very, very important point, because in many cases failing failing in science is the most common thing. But when fails means lost 10 or 20 millions, people used to look in a very different way, and failure raises more concern. But of course, we can look into the aviation industry or whatever. Is basically the path that all the industries follow. You need to fail and fail and fail till succeed. So there's no way around. And these ocean technologies, talking about renewable energies, aquaculture, we need to fail first and then succeed, and so we will waste a lot of money, but there's no way around.
That's a great message. It may be a long path, but eventually we will succeed. So thank you very much.
I hope so. Thank you.
And for the sake of time, I think we have to move. We will move now on to marine pollution, and Christopher Pham from the Oceanus Research Center has been moderating this session. Chris, the floor is yours.
So in our session related to marine pollution, actually, we had 3 pledges that was related to ocean literacy. And so actually it was a bit of a surprise for me, because marine pollution is really an Atlantic issue that can only be tackled if we really have this integrated Atlantic collaborations and making sure that we're using the same protocols. And so I think there's something here that we need to work on to improve that the pledging calls in the future to really get this community involved. Somehow it wasn't successful in that sense, but anyway, we had a really interesting small conversation about the ocean literacy really related to marine pollution. So those 3 pledges from Brazil, so cover the Atlantic, Brazil, Ireland, and Portugal. So the synergies were really obvious, because they were really treating the same issue and in the same way. Really localized pledges, programs that are actually already running related to outreach events in schools. So we basically find out that there's really a need to sort of concert the strategy of ocean literacy throughout the Atlantic. So there's really a need to sort of have a platform that you could share different activities to not reinvent the wheel, basically. And we all agreed that the Atlantic Blue School, All-Atlantic Blue School, was really the sort of motor to get this started. And that was something that when we started to analyze what kind of...
Excuse me, Elaine, could you please mute yourself?
So we also agree that the ocean literacy as a discipline is quite recent, quite fragmented. There is different activities at the more EU level, Canadian level, also at the Brazil. So there is things that are starting to be sort of concentrated efforts, but it's still quite fragmented. And we all agree that we need to improve that to ensure that we're using the same methods. So that was basically our discussion around that theme.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, when I tried to join in your group, you had already finished your discussions. But so there, I guess I'd have a question for you: is whether how do you or the other pledgers see that we could bring in actors such as the industry, for instance? I think that would be critical to bring the industry into play here.
Into the marine pollution.
Yes, exactly.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, that's something that I don't know exactly how the pledging was disseminated, and this is something that we still need to, I guess, the organizers have to work on, because I'm not really sure why there was no industry involvement.
So maybe here's something that for Sophia and José to keep in the back of their minds. Perhaps now that we have this mapping of these different pledges, really identify some critical actors that would in general be involved. Would make all sense to be involved in some of these pledges and really try to target some submissions from them.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that.
Excellent, thank you, Chris. So now we move to the last but not least, and polar research. So I'll pass the word to Gonçalo Vieira from IGOT at the University of Lisbon. Gonçalo, you had one pledge only, unless there was a very last minute one.
Hi, Joanna. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure being here. Yeah, we had one pledge. It doesn't mean that it hasn't been challenging anyway, because, and in fact, there is a road ahead waiting for us. So I will briefly synthesize what we have been discussing. In fact, I even finished the session earlier because I thought it was at 5 o'clock that we were finishing. So, but I think we managed to grasp some important details. So the pledge that we got was from UPolNet, one quite large European program, which aims essentially at coordinating and co-designing the European research area in the polar regions. It's a large consortium of 25 partners. So in spite of being only one pledge, it really encompasses a large number of polar operators and also organizations dealing with polar research, including also funding agencies. So it's really an encompassing pledge. It focuses on facilitating cross-border access to polar infrastructures. And yesterday there was a meeting already associated to this, where we have brought together, of course, the European perspective, which is related to this pledge. And in fact, I'm also involved in this project. So I can really also give you an idea about it. But it was, of course, a bit of an European biased perspective of polar research, and this we really need to bring in other players, especially from the South Atlantic area, so to bring them in. I'm going to paste here in the chat the link for yesterday's meeting that we had. The European Polar Board, which is also involved on this, is going to make available the video on YouTube in a few days, I expect. And so it's also a way for everybody to get a bit more engaged on what is going on and what's on the table. So this pledge, in fact, it involves over 60 research stations in the Arctic and Antarctica, a large, well, 2 icebreakers and about 14 research vessels. And what the pledge aims, it's essentially at facilitating the access, the transnational access to polar infrastructures. And for these, this is also one of the goals of the projects. There will be, within the pledge, there will be at least one workshop that will be organized and of course disseminated by the community. And I'm sure this is also going to work as a way to foster new pledges and interactions with the community. We had a participant also from South Africa, which gave it a view also a bit on the South Atlantic perspective, and also with a strong Antarctic program. So there is a significant interest there. And we were focusing not essentially on the pledges themselves, but also on the next steps in order essentially to bring in more actors and more participants into this activity. And we think that, well, of course, there is a bit of an European biased focus on this, but we feel that we need to increase coordination, essentially focusing on the Antarctic region and on the Southern Ocean. So there will be a big field for action linking the partners across the Atlantic, but there is really a gap to bridge, at least in what concerns the European view of polar research, in coordinating actions in the South Atlantic and in the Southern Ocean, linking to the interactions with the Antarctic. So we are very much focusing on involving key partners in the South Atlantic. We were discussing a bit about the need for finding key science topics that will bring in actors, and we even focused on some possible actions for the future, for instance, associated to carbon in the Southern Ocean and the linkages related to the role of the Southern Ocean as a carbon sink and in the carbon in the biogeochemical cycle of carbon. We focused also on discussing which could be the key enablers to promote further collaboration from pole to pole. And well, I think it, as a personal opinion, the polar community, it's quite well organized for a long time. As the Atlantic approach is a regional approach, the polar community has been organized in a clearly Arctic community, which has a scientific organization, International Arctic Science Committee, and also an Antarctic counterpart, SCAR. And there is also COMNAP for logistics and FARO for logistics in the Arctic. So there is a quite strong coordination, but there has always been the difficulty to bridge the gap between the Arctic and the Antarctic. And I think the Atlantic comes up also as an opportunity to kind of bridge this gap. But of course, it poses challenges, because since there is a whole Antarctic community and a whole Arctic community, why should they focus only in the Atlantic and not in the ocean as well? So there are some topics which we need to address. But for instance, there is the Association of Polar Early Career Scientists, which is a very dynamic association, which could really be engaged. And we have several partners across the Atlantic countries, even non-polar countries, which are very active in this organization. There is also a very active organization called Polar Educators International, which we can bring in with other pledges. Of course, the European Polar Board, EUPolarNet is already engaged, and then also the European Polar Cluster, a cluster of European projects focusing on polar research, from which we have already also the commitment. They could not attend the session, but we were in contact before, and they will also be pledging. And finally, South Africa mentioned also the South African Polar Research Initiative and the Southern Ocean Carbon Observatory, led by South Africa. And I think these are also organizations that can play a key role. And finally, we have a very good experience within EUPolarNet with the World Ocean Council, which relates very much to industry. And maybe this could be a key partner, not only for the polar regions, but also for the other pledges. So this could be really, really important. And finally, to wrap up, we think that since this pledge is very much focused on infrastructure, we think that it's important also to identify essentially science questions that bring the players in. So if you want to bring scientists in a bottom-up approach, you really need to identify key questions, key large science questions that will link Antarctic and the Atlantic, and also, of course, the Arctic and the Atlantic, that can only be addressed by cooperation. So I think this is a challenge that we have. And finally, another one, which could be, we could try to work on a kind of metrics of identifying key overlapping scientific goals which are cross-cutting among polar programs from the Atlantic region. And this could foster really bilateral and multilateral cooperation. So I think these would be the key ideas from this short, quite interesting meeting.
That's excellent. That's a great overview, and it does seem that, and I agree with the comment that Sophia was putting up in the chat, that the Atlantic could be really a model for other basins with regards to these polar connections. I'm getting also messages from José Montinho that we need to wrap up now, very sharp, because the main session is about to start with a welcoming address. It's a pity we haven't had more time. I think for the All-Atlantic 2022, we will definitely need longer sessions for these discussions. I do think we did great progress, at least from my side. I see not only great potential, but also actually a lot of ongoing concrete actions already taking place in this All-Atlantic community, which may very well serve as a model to the UN Ocean Decade that for sustainable development that we are just launching, that has just been launched recently. So with this, and I apologize that we don't have time to continue our discussions. I would just like to thank you all very much for sharing your ideas and your vision, and I really look forward to hopefully be meeting you in person and connecting in person in the All-Atlantic 2022 Conference. I thank you all. And I will leave the last words from Sophia and from José.
Yeah, Sophia, can you close the session?
Well, I can, of course. So thank you very much for your interest. It was really great that in such a short time we were able to get 27 participants in this session. So thank you to all of you. And I think there is still a long way to get the remaining actors that were not involved, as you well mentioned, on board of this very interesting ongoing activity. And we are here to keep supporting the All-Atlantic cooperation, because we really believe that this can be a model for the implementation of the UN Decade of Ocean Science. So thank you very much, and stay tuned, because we will have more activities in scope of this pledging campaign. Thank you.
Now I hope you all to jump into the main session.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.